Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer and unpack the absolutely fascinating educational blueprint behind what is, frankly, a massive YouTube success story. We're looking at a channel called English Avenue, and what they've managed to do is completely re-engineer the way people approach language learning online. Instead of those dry textbooks and repetitive grammar drills we all dread, they've built this captivating, totally immersive world. So today, we're going to look strictly at the data, the video titles, and the community metrics from their channel to figure out exactly why their approach is just unbelievably effective. So here's our addenda for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the English Avenue phenomenon. Second, motivation as a learning tool. Third, the graded story system. And finally, number 4, active vocabulary and community. All right, starting off with section 1, the English Avenue phenomenon, a new blueprint for learning. Because it's one thing to teach a few phrases online, right? But it's another entirely to build a digital university that literally rivals traditional media outlets in its reach. 1.34 million. Just wrap your head around that number for a second. That staggering figure represents their subscriber base, instantly establishing the massive authority of their unique educational model. We aren't just talking about some niche hobbyist channel here. This is a global classroom. With 903 videos currently sitting in their library, they've created this extensive, reliable resource that learners clearly trust and come back to day after day. And they organize those 903 videos into a brilliantly balanced ecosystem. Take their long-form deep dives, for example. A really standout example is this nearly 47-minute mini-documentary strictly on the history of modern computers. I mean, think about how audacious that is for a language class. Students are actively absorbing the evolution of technology, from giant mainframes all the way down to microchips, while their brains naturally decode the English fluency behind it. And they balance these really rigorous tech deep dives with bite-sized shorts like 5 Common English Mistakes, which pull in tens of thousands of views in a snap. Plus, they organize the whole shebang into these massive, easily navigatable playlists. The absolutely crucial point here is what I like to call the Trojan horse method. They basically disguise the heavy lifting of language acquisition inside universally understood topics. It's a literal Trojan horse. Your brain thinks it's just enjoying a relaxing bedtime routine, but secretly, it's doing high-intensity vocabulary squats. You already know what a bedtime routine looks like, so when you hear it described in English, your brain effortlessly bridges that gap between the context you know and the brand new vocabulary you're learning. Moving right along to section 2, motivation as a learning tool, driving engagement. This is where English Avenue really, truly separates itself from your traditional language courses. Think about this. Their most engaging content isn't traditional grammar at all. Don't Waste Your Life sits at a massive 3.3 million views. Train Your Mouth to Talk has 3.1 million, and Nothing is Free has 2.7 million. They aren't out here selling verb conjugation part 4, they're selling personal empowerment, life advice, and productivity. The English practice is almost like a secondary benefit to the viewer, which is just incredibly clever. They are essentially merging a self-improvement seminar directly with a language class. Titles like How to Improve Your Personality Every Day or Let Go of Control offer profound psychological value. The viewer clicks because they want the life advice, right? But they stay and they learn English as a natural byproduct of that emotional investment. And that deep emotional investment dramatically increases their focus and retention of the language being spoken. It's a real game changer. Now, on to section 3, the graded story system, building fluency step by step. Because, let's be honest, motivation alone isn't enough. You need a system, and English Avenue has built a formidable one. They map out the entire learner's journey with a graded reader system. Specific playlists are actually designed to progress a student from a foundational level -5, moving up to level -4, and eventually hitting level -3. This carefully builds fluency step by step. And by loudly broadcasting the difficulty level right up front, they totally remove the friction of choice. You always know exactly where you stand and what you should be watching next to gently push your boundaries without feeling totally overwhelmed. 160. That is how many videos they house just within their The Ultimate English Learning Guide playlist alone. This is not some quick weekend crash course. For the really focused learner, this is an absolute goldmine, offering hundreds of hours of immersive content, making sure that once you enter their ecosystem, you have a clear, expansive runway for long-term improvement. And having this massive scale allows for a completely seamless transition. They start learners off on simple foundational narratives like Nothing is Free, which is a level 1 story. But as the student climbs that ladder, they introduce highly nuanced concepts. By the time a student reaches the top, they've actually developed the listening stamina to digest emotional regulation or Exactly like we saw earlier, an exhaustive 47-minute masterclass on the history of modern computers. The gradual step up in complexity is just flawless. Okay, finally, Section 4, active vocabulary and community testing the audience. Because learning can't just be passive listening, can it? It requires active recall. And their use of the YouTube community tab is a total masterclass in this. Imagine you're just logging onto YouTube, scrolling mindlessly through your feed, and suddenly you are challenged with this exact quiz. Which word means to speak without thinking carefully? It completely breaks that passive scrolling habit. It wakes the learner right up and forces active participation. This isn't a video you can just let play in the background while you do the dishes. You actually have to stop, read, think, and commit to an answer. And they really do not shy away from advanced vocabulary either. They regularly push their audience to understand and apply high-level words like meticulous in everyday sentences. They aren't just testing basic nouns and verbs. They are challenging their audience to select the specific sentence that uses meticulous correctly. This elevates the standard of the entire community, really proving they're serious about achieving true advanced fluency. And guys, the engagement metrics here are phenomenal. A single quiz on the word equanimity generated 21,000 answers. Fatuous pulled in 19,000, didactic got 16,000, and asking for the opposite of scarce brought in 14,000 votes. Tens of thousands of learners are actively participating in these rigorous vocabulary tests every single week. When you answer a poll and instantly see 20,000 other people learning alongside you, it reinforces the habit and turns what is normally a solitary task into this massive global community event. So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this powerful title from one of their top videos, Train Your Mouth to Talk. It's a brilliant, provocative reminder that mastering literally any complex subject requires continuous active action. You can't just passively consume, you actually have to train. So based on the blueprint we've just decoded today, I'll leave you with this question. Are you just passively watching the world go by? Are you actively training yourself? What fascinating topic, whether it's self-improvement or the history of modern computers, could you use as your own Trojan horse for learning today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.